Hey everybody, everything new under the sun. This is a bit of a public service announcement, and I think, and you've heard it from me before, but I think there is a option, I'll call it that, for any sort of upcoming unknown flu-like diseases, anything respiratory, chest, lung, and probably a whole bunch of other things, to be honest. I think these things could be coming down the line. These things could be some of the pestilence that is to come in the last days. Certainly, they are useful for people with a lot of power to consolidate that power and to use it over us to push particular things. I think you know what I'm referring to. Unknown flu-like disease claims 143 lives in DR Congo. A bunch of preppers are talking about this. And we've heard of bird flu and that sort of thing. That's on the rise, and they always suggest it's coming. An unidentified illness exhibiting flu-like symptoms reported on Tuesday has been reportedly resulted in 143 fatalities in the DRC between Sunday, November 10th and November 25th. Health officials are conducting investigations into to identify the cause of the outbreak. Now, read this here. Women and children are reportedly most affected. Now, isn't that a perfect recipe to as a fear factor for the public, to get them to take a new thing to solve the issue in the name of public health and safety, right? Oh, it's not for you, it's for the women and children. So this is next level stuff. Before it was for your friends, for your family, for your parents who are older, etc. Now they're jumping. In my opinion, that's what I see. In my opinion, now they're jumping straight to women and children and tugging at the heartstrings and saying, you know what, men, if you don't do this, because probably who were the ones who rejected the last thing the most? Probably a large proportion of them were actually men. So now they're going directly after men, saying, you know what, you better get this, because women and children are the ones that are most effective. So if you don't do it, you're effectively you're sentencing your whether it be your wife and your kids to whatever, right? Can you see the coercion there? Now, on a completely separate matter, this is an article in nature.com, and it shows the mechanisms of action for this particular thing. And this is related to, this is a post review of it for what in 2021. And the fact that with this particular thing, there's a whole bunch of different mechanisms it uses to go after whatever the virus is, whatever the infection is. This is polar opposite of what the thing that they gave you for during that period was. The thing that they gave you during that period really only had one mechanism where it would prevent the virus from attaching to cells, because it covered up the receptors of that particular of the cells, so that the virus couldn't attach. Now I'm terrible at science. I'm using the worst. I'm providing the worst summary ever, but you know what I mean. There was one mechanism of action for this particular thing, whereas with things that God has created, natural solutions, which I believe, this particular intervention is one that is created by duplicating what was already found in nature in fungus. And this one uses several different methods of action to go after and to solve the thing. And this is why it's not only good for this particular illness, but also other things. Maybe the big C word illnesses, if you know what I mean. The big C word, the big C that everybody gets at some point in their lives. And you can go read. I'll put this article this is nature.com from 2021. This is peer reviewed, published, science, and it talks about the methods of action. Inactivate extracellular virus particles, prevent viral attachment and or entry. So this is what the big V does. That's the number 2 is what it does primarily, as I understand it. Prevent replication of the viral genome. but this is what this other drug does. It prevents synthesis of specific viral protein, and it prevents the assembly or release of new infectious virions. So it acts in several different ways. So if one way is not working, it's going to be able to address the situation in another way. And this is why it's so effective against a whole bunch of different things, not just what you know of this particular item for, what it's been used for through the ages, but also for, repurposed situations, for flu, for cold, for obviously parasites, maybe for the big C. And I think, by the way, the evidence is huge that it has very good efficacy against the big C, by the way. And I think you understand what I'm saying there. If you have the big C, or you have a friend who's going through that, the big C is not the last number of years what we just went through, but the other big C, the CAN big C, and incredible efficacy. Stage 4 being resolved, where the big C was throughout their body, and they were terminal, and it resolved the situation. I highly recommend, and as it relates to things that are happening in the last days, things like this will increase, and this particular intervention has great efficacy against any sort of lung. Now, I'm not a doctor. Don't take anything that I say for truth. I'm just saying, you know what? As much as I understand, it's incredibly useful, and we might need it. You might want to stockpile this stuff, have some of it ready to go, because right now it's relatively cheap, relatively easy to get, honestly, if you know what you're doing, and there may be a time when you absolutely need it, and it could be very helpful in a lot of the things that are coming in these last days. So I've recommended it in the past. I recommend it to you now. I think there's the great science on this particular thing, and you should look into it. I think you should be aware of it. I think you should have some on hand. It's incredibly safe. Do your own research. Incredibly safe. And for all the upcoming things, those with ears to hear and eyes to see, pay attention to this particular intervention, and I would suggest have some on hand. Could be very valuable. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.